Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Suited Shootist. And today I want to talk about one of my favorite things on the planet. And it's not what you'd think. I absolutely love being wrong. And I'm going to tell you why. There's a bunch of benefits to it. Before I jump into that though, again, I wanted to thank everybody for all the support so far. Adam, I really appreciate sending the clutch. Thank you so much for that. I'm going to be putting together a video on my thoughts on it. So really thank you for sending that out. And if you haven't already, if you can like us on Facebook, like us on Instagram, subscribe on YouTube, that always is a huge help. So what I want to get into on this is it seems like if you look at a lot of the exchanges, especially on social media, that everybody is so focused on being right that they just neglect everything else. And it's to a point where some people give the impression that they have to be right because if they're wrong, God forbid, their significant other is going to leave them and somebody's going to foreclose on the house and the dog's going to run away or some catastrophic outcome. And it's just not the case. I have gotten more and I've benefited more from being wrong in my life than I have from being right in jujitsu. Every time I'm wrong, I learn where my game is weak and where I need to focus on to get better and to improve. When I'm shooting, every time I'm wrong, I learn where my grip or my trigger control needs work and where I can improve. And socially, every single time I'm wrong, I learn something that makes me a better person in some facet. It either makes me a better friend, it makes me a better spouse, or it might just make me a better communicator because it's one of those things where anytime I walk into any kind of exchange, especially on social media where everybody has their entrenched opinion and they have this wall of the screen that's protecting them from reality. Even if I have what I think to be true, I always take a look and ask myself, what is it about this set of circumstances that I don't know yet? Because those are the things that can change perspective. It may not, but there's always going to be an unconsidered factor, an unconsidered element that can come into play and then can radically change whatever the nature of the circumstance is. And this can be anything from breaking down video footage of a defensive shooting, and one little nugget of info can shift that from being completely outrageous to completely justifiable or vice versa. Or it can be somebody's context in terms of their lifestyle making a certain carry method more appropriate or more applicable than it is to yours. And that's what I'm going to challenge people to this week is, again, we're still all cooped up in the house and going stir crazy. So there's a lot more social interaction online than there is face to face these days. So whenever you come across that, where you see that and just go, oh my God, I need to correct this. This can't go unaddressed because it's so wrong. Just ask yourself, what about this might I not know that could change my opinion, and go into it with a certain willingness to learn that. Because again, being wrong can be a great thing if you control it, because nothing bad's going to happen. Really, in these circumstances, there's only positive outcomes aside from you not being the most right. And so honestly, if you're at a point where your ego just can't handle that, maybe work on that, because that may be where you're wrong. Or if you're just so entrenched in that idea, then this might not be for you. But it's one of those that I do think a lot of people should be a lot more willing to be wrong more often, because nothing bad's going to happen. And there's a lot of potential upside to it. So just a little experiment there. What are some examples where you've benefited from being wrong? I toyed with that a little bit on one of my last videos, the things I used to believe. There's going to be at least one more segment of that, because there have been some opinions that I've held that I thought were just dogmatic truths that I am embarrassed of now. So this is kind of a continuation of that. Think about it. And it's definitely a worthwhile approach to take, especially when you're communicating with somebody whose circumstance you don't necessarily understand all the way. It works for shooting, works for Jits, works for the interpersonal interaction. The only time I'll even say it. There are even defensive scenarios where it can come into play as well. Now, I'm not saying that being wrong is a good thing there. It is very contextual. But that same question of what don't I know that could dramatically shift this is still one worth asking. So take some force on force classes, especially from a solid instructor. The only one that I've had direct experience with, obviously, is Craig Douglas with his ShivWorks curriculum. But the entire ShivWorks collective does similar things. I know Paul Sharp does one as well. Look for a good force on force class, because that will kind of highlight your blind spots and show where you may be wrong and how those preconceptions can get you in trouble. So like I said, try it out this week, play with it, see how it might come into play with your current interactions, and let me know what you think. If you have a circumstance where you benefited from being wrong, throw it down in the comments, and it'll be a good place to start the discussion. So speaking of discussion, we also have the Facebook group up and running, and there's a lot of cool stuff going on in there. I'll throw the link down in the description for that as well, and come join us and check us out. So I hope everybody has a great week. Stay safe, and we will catch you next time.